is debate between Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, and as we were discussing it on the Patreon, doing some film study of Colorado versus Cincinnati earlier this season. When you look at these two quarterbacks, you and Heather, you mentioned it. You want, if you could get a little bit more Cam Ward out of Shedeur, you'd have an incredible quarterback, right? They're very good in their own right. There's no debate about that. Clearly for us, 1, 2, depending on how you stack them up, they're the top 2 quarterbacks in the class. But you'd also like to get a little bit more Shedeur Sanders out of Cam Ward. So Hadley, give me your assessment with these two players, and what is it specifically that you would like to see out of the other, right? Okay. That the other actually does.
So, yeah, if you put these two quarterbacks together, you mix them up, I think you get the perfect quarterback. And you hit it right on the head, man. Like, you want to see more Shedeur out of Cam Ward. You want to see Cam Ward play more on time, get the ball out of his hands, be a point guard on that offense, spread it around instead of holding the football. Everything's a fire drill. Like, you want to see more Shedeur and Cam Ward. And then on the opposite end, you want to see more Cam Ward and Shedeur, because I think when Shedeur kind of breaks the pocket and he's trying to get to the edge, I think he struggles a little bit with that. Sometimes he doesn't take the yards running. He's looking down the field. He doesn't really have the arm talent to throw, across his body like Cam Ward can. So it's like, I think NFL evaluators are going to look at it and say, which quarterback do we prefer the most? The guy that works from inside the pocket, that could deliver the football, post snap, or the guy like Cam Ward that, okay, if the play breaks down, he can get to the edge, he can extend plays. And those are the guys that are kind of in vogue now in the NFL, guys like Cam Ward. But when you watch somebody like Caleb Williams at the Bears struggle because he's not playing on time, and then you watch somebody like Jaden Daniels, play well because of him getting the ball out quickly, having that what's the word I always say with Jaden Daniels? That
processing.
That's the word, processing. Mm-hmm. I think, Shedeur has that processing ability more than Cam Ward. So I don't know. I go back and forth on these guys all the time, but I'm going to go with the processing. I'm going to go with getting the ball out on time, being that point guard. I'm going to go with Shedeur Sanders right now as QB1. Although Cam Ward is enticing because of what he does outside the play structure, I just got to take the safe thing right now in Shedeur Sanders until Cam Ward can show me more Shedeur in his game, per se.
Mr. C and D Kid with the basketball analogies, man. I love it because there are absolutely parallels in what they're saying. So Shedeur is prime Chris Paul, you know what I'm saying? Your traditional point guard, right? And then you got Cam, who's prime Westbrook, who's gonna fill up the stat sheet, bro. You might get some turnovers along the way, you know what I mean? But he's gonna definitely fill it up. And then Mr. C. Brasky mentioned, in terms of the film that we were watching, that Shedeur took a bit of a conservative approach. There were some opportunities down the field that he just didn't take advantage of. If he was playing with the anticipation that we come to expect from him in being a point guard and playing with a certain level of aggressiveness, there were some big plays that were kind of left on the field. So as Mr. C. Prasky so eloquently put it, he saw more John Stockton than Magic, than Showtime Magic out there in the Lakers. So interesting analogies there from a basketball perspective. Timothy's concerned about maybe the size with Sanders. Maybe that's kind of where things hinge. And I could see where NFL teams might take that into account as it relates to these two. What about you, Drew? What are your thoughts here on these two?
I actually forgot what I was going to say, bro. I'm sitting here thinking, bro. And I had y'all were talking about analogies, and I had one. And I lost it, man.
It's a food analogy.
Wrote it down.
It's a food analogy.
It's definitely
right?
food.
No. It wasn't food. It wasn't food. I don't remember that one. But in terms of Shedeur, and I know, I think for Shedeur, it's a little nitpicky for me, okay? Because I'm comfortable with what he was doing in terms of what we watched, what we saw, what I've been seeing all season. Him, being a little conservative at times. He's throwing the football down the field, got it down the field, and I think part of it too is that it's a better team around him as the season has progressed. So I don't necessarily have to look for that guy down the football field because we don't necessarily have to score on this particular play because the defense is playing better. We could run the football a little bit better, right? And outside of that one throw that he threw that he got lucky on, which probably should have been an interception, it's conservative where he's throwing the football, but it's not conservative, meaning he's throwing 8 yards down the field, bro, on a curl. You know what I'm saying? When he probably should have thrown the 20-yard bomb. Maybe that would have went for a touchdown, right? So it's not so conservative that I'm concerned. He's just taking the more
What the
sure
defense,
thing, if you will,
yeah, what the
right?
defense is,
Right. So it's not
allowing
that big of a deal,
short to intermediate.
and he plays within the structure of the offense versus Cam, who's kind of drive you crazy, bro. Like, it's like, yo, get it out right there, he's open. And then Cam will do a Jameis Winston, throw it down the football field, 50 yards, touchdown, and you're like, oh, okay, well, we're good, right? And that's great when it's working, but when it's not working, it can be a big problem and it costs you football games, right? Or it used to drive me crazy what Brady used to do with the Bucks, bro. Is it's 3rd and 3 and we're throwing it 40 yards down the football field, bro. Just can we get the 3-4 yards, get the first down, and we can continue to drive? You could try it out on the first down with the next play. Like, I think that's the conversation that you got to have with Cam, bro. Get the ball out. Your guys open, no excuses. We can this 40-yard bomb, a 30-yard bomb that you're trying to make. We can do that after we get the first down, bro. We need to continue the drive. You don't need to shoot the 3 when the lane's wide open to go dunk it, bro. Like, it's not necessary. And I think that conversation, I don't know if that's conversation has been had with Cam because they were winning despite everything that was going on. So, and I would imagine that would drive me crazy as a coach. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not operating in the way the offense is supposed to work. Again, like we talked about it last week, that's going to piss off the offensive linemen. It's going to frustrate your receivers. And then when you finally try to throw on time, now things are out of whack because you haven't been throwing on time, right? This is how we did it in practice, but when we get in the game, you're doing something else, right? So I could understand it. I understand why Headley has, Shedeur, number one. I get it. It's, again, go back and forth. I still got Cam up there as number one, but Shedeur is kind of nipping at his heels, bro. You know what I'm saying? He has a couple more of these games where he's not getting the ball out on time. That's an easy switch.
Yeah, and I agree with what Fairfully Confident said up there, where he says Ward does more with less. I agree with that comment there. I think Shedeur Sanders, he needs an offensive line at the next level. Without an offensive line, Shedeur's not going to look good, in my opinion. I think offensive line need to protect him. It could look like Bryce Young without an offensive line for Shedeur. Yep, that's a good one, Drew. So I think that with Cam Ward, though, I think he'll do more with less. So I agree with that comment.
I think so. So you guys made some poignant assessments of both quarterbacks, and Hadley, you mentioned Caleb Williams and the struggles that he's had in his rookie season, and the fact that was part of our concern going in. We love the upside. We love the playmaking ability. He can make every throw. He can get you out of a bad play, but also he too frequently is playing off schedule, off script, trying to extend the play, perhaps trying to do too much at times, which has bit Cam Ward a week ago, right? The question is, at least from my perspective, and this is something that has evolved over time for me, because I had always been a stickler for, you have to be able to operate the offense, play within the confines of the offense before any of the heroics can actually take place. Before we can put the cape on and be Superman, you got to be Clark Kent. You got to be able to show up. You got to punch the clock. You got to do your job, right? It may not be sexy. It may not be interesting, but that's what we need. We need to stay ahead of the chains. We need to throw the football away. Sometimes it actually is a good thing to punt, play a little field position, right? Like, you got to have those things in place. You got to be really good at the mundane before you can start to excite with your playmaking ability off script, right? And in terms of extending plays and so on and so forth. I was such a firm stickler in believer in that. And it still matters. It still matters. I just don't put the same level of emphasis on it, because that's what I pay my coach, my quarterback coach, my offensive coordinator, my head coach, in order to ingrain in the player, because that can be taught. The playmaking ability, the ability off script, the killer instinct, That can't be taught, bro.
You can't teach that. Yeah,
you cannot teach that. That doesn't mean everyone is going to learn how to rein it in and temper it. It's always a risk. There's no guarantee that a gunslinger, a natural playmaker is going to be able to temper that and understand when should I go for the juggler versus, you know what, let me just take a profit. Let me check it down. Let me take a profit, right? There's always going to be some volatility associated with that. But you cannot teach that element, that ability to take over the game, the nervous system, the sheer confidence that Cam Ward possesses in his ability to throw the football, to create opportunities for his teammates. You cannot teach it. And you look at the guys that we consider to be, the upper echelon quarterbacks in this league, in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes, right? Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Like, these guys have a unique ability to raise the level of play of guys around them and create. When they can get your coach out of a bad play call with their physical ability. Now, what has established them, obviously, what has taken their game to another level is the fact that they can do all of the mundane. They can play within the confines of the offense. They can operate what you're trying to actually implement from an offensive perspective. They can play within those confines. They're not necessarily having to break out of that in order to have success or to be able to actually push the football down the field. But when you need it, they can get it for you, right? Josh Allen just pulled it down and went 20 yards. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? To steal the game. You know what I mean? Like, look, you know what Lamar can do. You know what Patrick Mahomes can do in terms of taking over the game by just simply extending plays, right? And Cam Ward clearly is a superior prospect in that regard compared to Shedeur. So, as I mentioned before, to me, I'm going to roll the dice. And I don't want to suggest that I'm not a Shedeur fan. I am a Shedeur fan. I think he's quarterback too. I think he's a very close quarterback to Cam Ward. But I'm going to roll the dice on that innate playmaking ability. And I'm going to challenge my coaches to rein it into a certain degree, right? You don't want to coach it out of them, right? Because you need it. You're going to need it at some point, right? That's going to be the difference between, being able to actually come back down, a score in the last 2 minutes versus, all right, if our defense doesn't hold up, we don't really have a shot here. You understand what I'm saying? But ultimately, I'm going to challenge my coaches in order to actually rein that in and get him playing on time with more consistency, right? Because, again, and I want to reiterate this, I think both quarterbacks do a good job with this. I just don't think Cam gets enough, respect and credit for it. Is pre-snap, Cam is good, bro. Yeah. I've seen a couple of instances where he hasn't necessarily identified the free rusher, but generally speaking, Cam has impressed me. I didn't think he was quite as good as what I've seen this year pre-snap in terms of recognition, right? The problem is that he wants to score a touchdown on every throw. And not every play is designed to score on every throw, right? Sometimes that play is just designed to pick up 6, to put us in a better position to convert on third down. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I think that can be taught. I think you can learn how to again temper that playmaking ability in order to effectively execute the offense within the confines of the scheme, the system. You can't teach the other stuff. You just can't teach innate playmaking that he possesses. So that's where it comes out for me, right? And again, as I said at the top, it doesn't always work out, right? We expect Caleb Williams, especially if you can get some decent coaching, we expect Caleb Williams to be very good, right? We understand how talented he is, but he's got to learn how to pull it back, right? Get the ball out of your hands. Okay, he actually did a much better job of that this past week, and they were in position to win. They just got the field goal blocked, right? But there's going to be a time where I need Caleb to do some Caleb type stuff. You know what I'm saying? And he has the ability to actually do that. So that's where I come out on the Shedeur Cam conversation. It is very much a traits based league, right? And you can talk about ceilings and floors. Shedeur has a higher floor than Cam Ward, right? But I want to aim for the ceiling. I want to aim for the ceiling that I think Cam Ward possesses, which I think is superior to Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, they say you're going on and on about Cam. They're trying to wonder why.
Well,
might be a U and an M.
Yeah,
might be.
Might be.
Look at the background, bro.
It might be.
About Shedeur needing an offensive line, Cam Ward needs the coaching.
Yes.
Like Shedeur needs the offensive line, Cam Ward needs the coaching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's a little easier. I think it's a little easier to, well, depending on what team I guess you go to, I think the coach is probably the easier thing to fix, right? Assuming that's there.
Yeah.
Versus building up the offensive line.
Yeah.
It has been an evolution in terms of how I see quarterbacks, right? And because the game is slanted towards the offense, right? I know defenses are adapting, of course, but the rules and everything are slanted towards the quarterback. I want the guy who can do the special stuff. You understand what I'm saying? He's afforded all these extra protections, right? Generally speaking, you know what I'm saying? Some quarterbacks don't get the protections, like, Cam Newton, for example. He never got the protection. But because the game is slanted towards those guys and they touch the ball every single play, I want the guy who could do the special stuff, who does that more frequently, right? And who actually has the confidence and the balls to do it. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm looking at from that perspective. That's why, like I said, I think he has a higher ceiling than Shedeur. I think in terms of floors, you want a guy who can be able to, and certainly be able to actually contribute sooner, because I think Cam would need some seasoning. Shedeur is the guy, right? I think Shedeur can come in immediately and stabilize things. He'll have his growing pains like any other rookie, but I think he can stabilize things. Whereas Cam would probably need a little bit more seasoning. You don't necessarily want to throw him out there day one, but long term, give me Cam Ward.